Welcome back to the channel, everyone. What's really funny about today's video is that it was a device that I really never personally used. Obviously I bought it and I used it, but I never used it as a main device or a main watch, mostly because I had the Series 1 at the time and then I had the Series 2 just recently, and now I switched to the Series 4. But now I'm using the Series 3 basically as just like a user device to see how it's held up. And I can tell you right now, the Apple Watch Series 3, which just came out in 2017, it's not even that old of a watch, is kind of more so like the iPhone 8 or iPhone 8 Plus of Apple Watches. Basically meaning it's still a completely like great device. It still has so much going for it. But the only weird thing is probably the body. It's in that older type of body, to be honest. In 2020, we have the Watch Series 4 and the Series 5 that kind of switched up the body more so the Series 4. But as I'm using the Series 4, I honestly don't notice that big of a difference between even the Series 4 and Series 5 type of body and the Series 3, which is super crazy. I always thought there was a pretty big difference, but there really isn't. The screen sizes are very close to each other, and even looking around the Series 3, there really isn't. I mean, obviously everyone's seen the Apple Watches, they've seen these from the first get-go to the next one and to the next version. And even in 2020, I've seen a lot of people still rock even the Series 2, which isn't even that old. I just was rocking the Series 2 just before the Series 4, which I just switched to like a week ago. And this Apple Watch, I'll definitely tell you, in the way it feels and the way, still kind of, the way it resembles, it's still a very good looking device. There's really not too much to hate on it. Most people aren't even using this Apple Watch. They're always using probably like some like Motorola watch or even some Samsung Gear watches I've seen before. But most of the time, whoever uses a smartwatch on their wrist is using an Apple Watch. And the Series 3 was really the first time that we saw kind of a different change in the way it looks. Now, my model is not compatible with it, but the cellular model actually had a red little dial thing, which that was the biggest change we saw in the design. We really didn't see any change in design until the Series 4, but this one kind of initiated that change. And with that little dot, you were able to see that somebody has the cellular model and the more expensive model of the Series 3, or that standard bottom model, but you could be able to tell which one is the Series 3 or not. So in the functionality and the way it looks, it's more or less the same. I've already talked about the Series 2 this year too, and this one is exactly the same way. It looks exactly the same as that for the most part. However, what I will tell you is when you're actually using it, it feels like a very, very premium. However, when you're actually turning it on, you actually have watchOS 6.1.1 on it, whatever the newest version is, and it's going to still be lasting for quite a bit of time. The Series 2 is still supported, so this makes me think the Series 3 is probably going to get a couple more versions of software support, which is going to be really cool. Maybe watchOS 7 will bring some crazy things. We'll notice at WWDC what they say, but basically at the end of the day, this watch is still very good in the software department. So it has a lot of features there too. So, all those newer features that we have, like always on display, those things are not on the Series 3, but I don't think a lot of people really care about that stuff, to be honest. So in terms of the software and even the software features, you're still set. It has a lot going for it there, so I wouldn't even worry about it. In terms of the performance side of things, I mean, this thing has the Apple S3 chip, a dual-core CPU, and 768 megabytes of RAM. What's really cool is the internal storage of this is actually 16 gigabytes, which is kind of a lot. If you just think about it, like our phones used to be like 16 gigabytes, base model for the iPhone 6s. They eventually switched that up to 32, but this thing could potentially have as much storage as your older iPhone 6 or your new iPhone 6 if you still use it. And in terms of that performance, like, you're not going to be, playing games on your watch. You're not going to be doing anything crazy. You're just going to be doing basically texting and different things like that. And whenever I was really doing with the watch, it ran perfectly fine. There really wasn't too much to hate on it. It's a little bit faster than my Series 2, which I was using, but I noticed that my Series 2 was pretty decent too. So whatever you're going to do with it, the main things I usually do with the watch is check the amount of steps that I'm doing that day, look at texts, look at calls and everything, and once in a blue moon respond to text, but I very rarely ever do that. I'm usually doing those things, and on the Series 3, dude, it was perfectly fine for me. Like, I didn't notice that big of a difference at all, which is a really good thing. It's still a very fast Apple Watch. Even like I said, the Series 2 is perfectly fine, but this thing in terms of performance is still very set. You're not going to be doing anything crazy on it. You're not going to be spending hours and hours on it every single day. So I think you'll be fine at the end of the day. So in terms of the performance side of things, I think you're set. I wouldn't really worry about it too much there. And in terms of the battery life, this thing is a little weird because it does have a 341 milliamp hour battery, which isn't obviously the biggest Apple Watch in the world, but you do have to keep in mind it's not supposed to be comparing to like a phone battery life life or anything, and for the size battery, it's not bad. One thing to keep in mind is that for some reason, I don't know why, sometimes my Apple Watch batteries have degraded so much faster than I was expecting. With my Series 2, at least with my Series 0, I had it for about a year and a half. That battery life I noticed in the beginning was pretty good, and at the end of it, it was kind of dying on me pretty fast, which was pretty weird. On this new one, on my Series 2, I noticed it towards the end of, I don't know, for maybe like 4 months, I noticed that towards the end again, it was like kind of like dying on me a little too often. With the Series 3, it's not particular to that watch, it's just, all watches in general, I'm assuming. So this thing, even though it might have, a smaller battery or whatever, it's still going to be good. Don't worry about it. It'll get you through at least a day, probably multiple days. But I wouldn't go as far as saying it's going to be, amazing even a year down the line. It could potentially degrade on you faster than you might think. Also, watchOS 6, in my opinion, hasn't really been too good on battery life for me on any of the watches that I've been running it on. But what I will say is that with watchOS 7, maybe they'll change some things here and there that'll make this a little bit better in that department. I'm not really too sure, but I guess we'll see what happens. But to kind of sum up the video, is the Apple Watch Series 3 still worth it in 2020? Dude, 100% yes. If you don't own an Apple Watch, I think the Series 3 is a very, very good stepping stone as the Watch series. If you don't want to go switch to that new layout, or if you want to save some money, the Series 3 is probably the better way to go. You can always even get a Series 2, which I own just before the Series 4, and I think that one is a pretty decent watch too. There's really not too much to hate on it there. It gets the job done. If you want to call people, text people, see whatever, you have that capability on that watch, which is something that's really, really cool. So if you want that capability, if you want the cheapest version, the Series 2 is probably the better way to go. If you want the least cheaper version, but something that will probably last you a little bit longer and is a little bit faster, the Series 3 is probably the better way to go there. So I'll find the cheapest Series 2, Series 3, and even the Series 4 on Amazon and link it down in the description below so you guys can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. But that is pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, leave it down in the comment section as well. Hit that like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it'll mean so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate it if you guys could check it out. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.